What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am Hunter. It is Friday evening, February the 25th, and I wanted to bring you these officially announced patch notes. I made a video a few days ago talking about sort of leaked potential patch 1.3 notes, but the official ones have been posted on the Battle.net website. They are available in the public test realm right now, and this is very exciting stuff. I wanted to bring it to you guys right away with no delay. I mean, this post, I believe, was just a few hours ago, so we're going to get right into this, as these patch notes are just what shapes StarCraft 2, and it's just the area of so much discussion, often controversy as well. It's really cool to look at these and to just sort of speculate and see how they're going to affect the game. So without further ado, I just want to maybe talk really quickly about some of these non-balance changes. Like, there's going to be a new Grandmaster League for the top 200 players in each region. Obviously, depending what region you're playing in, whether it's on the Korean server or the North American server, it might be harder to get into the Grandmaster League, just depending, but definitely a prestigious title as well. That is pretty cool stuff. They changed a lot with the custom games and how custom games are ranked, and definitely some improvements in that area. Something that really affects me as a commentator and is going to affect the presentation of the replays that I cast are these observer and replay interface changes. Just to show you an example, this screenshot was posted on Reddit. So just as an example, once again, I mean, you've got this sort of scoreboard at the top. I believe you can toggle that on and off with the players and their colors and their race and their comparable food counts. In the top right, it's got resources and food counts for both players as well. And the tabs that you can pull down to describe what's going on, whether it's production tab or units lost tab, they've added new tabs as well, which is pretty cool, showing head-to-head comparisons, of course, for resources, army, supply, units killed, actions per minute, lots of different stuff. I'm not going to read it all word for word, but it's pretty cool, and it should make the presentation of all casters' games, just better to look at, and it's really nice in that regard. Apart from that, I do want to get into the balance changes. The first one, just as a general balance change, you can no longer select air units and then tell them to patrol really close together, so that you could, in theory, grab 50 Vikings, tell them to patrol next to each other, and they just ball up into what Artosis called the Viking flower, and you can't count the units. And it also actually gave an advantage, because as soon as an enemy unit came in range of the Viking flower, all the Vikings in the Viking flower would get their shots off immediately and at one time, which was more of a strategic placement use of the Viking flower. But either way, it is going to be taken out, so you can't do that anymore, which isn't going to be, I don't think, highly controversial. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Apart from the general balance changes, we do have some Protoss nerfs. The mothership, as I can read here, units leaving the mothership's vortex are now untargetable and immune to damage for 1.5 seconds. So unfortunately, the Archon toilet is going to be extinct. Now, for those of you who are not as familiar with some of these sort of advanced tactics, if you will, the mothership's vortex ability will suck in any and all units within its radius. It sucks in enemy units, it sucks in friendly units. It doesn't do any damage to them. It just takes them out of the battle temporarily. And what players would do is they would use Vortex, suck in however many 20 or 30 enemy units, and then if you put in a whole bunch of Archons, as the Vortex spell wore off, of course, it spits back up all the units, but units that do splash damage, like the Archon or Siege Tank or Colossus, they would do splash damage to every unit in the Vortex, because as, again, the Vortex expires, the units pop out, and, I mean, for a split second there, they are all, just in one little square foot, which of course is kind of unrealistic. And as a result, I mean, Blizzard has taken it out. It is kind of overpowered, and especially in, two or three 2v2s, for example, you can really abuse this tactic. And I don't know, the Archon Toilet was just kind of, it was cool, but it was a little ridiculous on sort of a tactical standpoint. So it's probably a good thing that they took it out, and now the units that come out of the Vortex are untargetable and actually immune to damage for 1.5 seconds. So yeah, you can't really abuse that anymore. This next change on the High Templar, Kaidaran Amulet, has been removed. Of course, Kaidaran Amulet, along with many other casters, it's the upgrade that gives you +5 starting energy. This is a huge nerf, actually. Taking away the Kaidaran Amulet, of course, you can't just warp in a High Templar and have him ready to Psystorm. Of course, Psystorm is 75 energy, and Archons with the Kaidaran Amulet spawn with 75 energy. So, on a defensive perspective, you can't just warp in a High Temp and or multiple High Templars and have their Psystorm ready to fend off, an oncoming Zerg rush, especially, like if there's heavy Hydra. For example, you can't just whip up some high temps and just force them all back. It's not going to be that easy anymore. This is going to have a huge impact on various matchups, especially against Hydras, against Bio Balls. It's really going to make it more difficult to defend, and also it's going to prevent those sort of cutesy plays from Protoss players where you would maybe come in with a Warp Prism, warp in 2 High Templar near the enemy mineral lines, and just Psystorm the hell out of the SCVs, killing 25 SCVs in just a matter of seconds. So you can't do that anymore. This is a pretty big nerf, and a lot of people are kind of pissed off about it. The Zealot change is it says charging Zealots will now hit fleeing targets at least once, and of course that's a good thing. I mean, I would certainly expect that they should if I'm investing in Charge. And I'll mention as a side note, Charge has kind of been a finicky spell since the beginning, since the launch even of the beta. There have been different problems with Zealot Charge. At least 2 or 3 that they've been sort of correcting. So this is just another one of those. Very good. Battle cruisers now moving on to the Terran changes. For the battle cruiser, the movement speed is increased from 1.4 approximately to 1.9 approximately. So that's a nice little buff, especially considering that the battle cruiser is just not used at all anymore. I mean, now adjusting the movement speed so maybe that is not quite as slow as an overlord. It might get a little bit more use. I would certainly like to see that. I've yet to see battle cruisers used in any big tournaments effectively, especially the GSL. I mean, that's what I was thinking of. It'd be really cool to see them used a bit more. But we'll see if this movement buff is actually going to cause that. I don't think this change is a very big deal, though. Overall, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out, though. The bunker build time has been adjusted from 35 to 40 seconds, and I did talk about this in my last video. This was part of those sort of like leaked patch notes, but it is going to make defending as a Terran player harder if you're against some really intense early aggression, and it's going to make bunker rushes a little bit less effective as well, as of course your opponent might be able to squeeze out an extra unit to try and fend off your bunker rush. This stim pack change is a big one as well. A 30-second nerf to the build time, research time of stim packs. This is going to affect a lot of Terran timings. Lots of Terran players, of course, rely on stim packs as sort of that timing window to attack. Of course, you're going to have a Bionic Ball, Marines and Marauders, and maybe we're going to see players getting a lot more combat shields early on, or maybe their timing attack is just going to be delayed a little bit, which should be really good for both Protoss and Zerg, as they're going to have those extra 30 seconds to build up defenses, which is a pretty huge deal. And I'm wondering if this nerf is actually going to stick around. We'll just have to wait and see. Onto the Zerg changes, we have one adjustment to the Infestor. Health increase from 90 to 100. I don't think anyone's going to care about that. The fungal growth changes are pretty dramatic. So now the stun duration has decreased from 8 to 4. Damage dealt by the fungal growth spell is going to increase 30% versus armored units, and now there's a missile as well instead of it just being an instant cast. So effectively, the damage per second has doubled for the Infestor using fungal growth. Changing it from 8 to 4 seconds is, of course, I mean, it's still going to do the 36 damage, as far as I know, to the units that are ensnared by fungal growth, but now it does 36 damage in 4 seconds instead of 8. So what does this really mean? Well, to speak only briefly about it, as if you're using infestors and fungal growth defensively to delay your opponent's push, say it's a ZVT and you're trying to delay their bio ball from getting to your base, it's going to be harder to delay that attack using fungal growth, because now each spell cast is only going to delay them for 4 seconds. so you're not going to have as much time to, fortify your defenses and try to hold that off. But at the same time, if you're just incorporating infestors into your army as damage dealers, this could be a very good thing. And I actually saw in the GSL the other day, it was a ZVZ, and both players were going really heavy roaches. One player was getting upgrades for the roaches, the other player was getting infestors. And I think that having a smaller stun duration would have really helped out the player going infestors, because he had at least 5 or 6 infestors in his unit composition, but you can't stack fungal growth. So causing 36 damage in 4 seconds and then cast another fungal growth, wait 4 seconds, cast another fungal growth, you can do damage a lot faster. And I mean, in a ZVZ, and especially in that example with the roach versus roach composition, I think that having this change would have helped out a lot, because you're not as concerned with delaying the army. You want to deal damage. And even furthermore, damage increased by 30% versus armored would have made it even easier to deal with roaches, of course, the roach being an armored unit. So that's just a couple examples of how, this fungal growth may change some of the matchups, but it is a pretty big adjustment, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how these changes are going to be received by the StarCraft 2 community, how they're going to play out on the public test realm, because these are not official changes yet. Of course, Blizzard puts them on the public test realm on Battle.net before releasing them into the actual game. So we'll have to see if any of these are tweaked between now and then. But I did want to bring these changes to you guys, and just to provide you with a little bit more content in this video, there has also been new maps introduced as well. Pretty exciting stuff on the 1 versus 1 ladder. We do have these maps, and I got some pictures taken from a Team Liquid post, but some maps have been removed. And first I want to talk about the maps that are added. We have Backwater Gulch. The the center is critical with rich minerals and watchtowers that overlook all main attack routes. Destroying rocks will provide additional attack routes and ways to assault your opponent's expansion. This Backwater Gulch map is actually replacing Blistering Sands, and well, that's what I read, and doesn't really surprise me. Blistering Sands has been removed. It was considered to be, it's considered to have balance issues, especially in ZVT, and kind of finicky balance issues in that Blistering Sands was favored towards Terran in the early game and towards Zerg in the early game and towards Terran in the late game. So this, this is supposed to be a replacement for Blistering Sands. Of course, it's a 4-player map, and it's the sandy tile set. You've got, I mean, if we were just looking at the bottom left, you've got your main base, and then a ramp leading down to your natural over here. Just where my mouse cursor is, you've got destructible rocks that lead to a potential 3rd base, and another larger ramp that leads out into the middle of the map where there are 2 gold bases, and also these little patches of high ground. I believe they're high ground. Yeah, I mean, there are ramps leading up to it. It's a little hard to see, and I looked for better quality pictures, larger pictures for you guys. But this is all I have to work with right now. So there's actually these high ground ledges as well. Moving on to the second map, Slag Pits. A single watchtower overlooks the entire central low ground. Alternative high ground paths and rich mineral locations make for many desired map locations. Rocks open shorter attack routes. So another 4-player map. 1 Xel'Naga tower in the middle of the map with 4 ramps leading down to that middle as well. You also, if you're sort of looking at the top of the screen, you've got your main base, a ramp that leads down to your natural, and then these rocks here, I believe that these are destructible rocks. You could destroy, I guess it's 2 sets of them that would lead to your opponent's base. And then there are gold bases in the top left and the bottom right, and there are destructible rocks there as well. I believe all that's accurate. Once again, it's kind of hard. I'm really squinting. I got my face like 3 inches from the monitor. But yeah, moving right along, we got the 3rd map, Shattered Temple. Now this is the new Lost Temple. A little heartbreaking to see our classic Lost Temple go, but that's just how it is. Your base is easy to defend with easily defended additional resources. A watchtower overlooks the central battlefield. Destroy rocks to reveal alternative attack paths and additional resources. Yeah, the description is a little bit redundant. Your base is easy to defend with easily defended additional resources. Sorry, maybe I'm not an English teacher, but a little redundancy there. The Shattered Temple, once again, replacing Lost Temple, and you can see many similarities just with the way the four bases are laid out. Normally in Lost Temple, of course, in the bottom right and top left, you have an island expansion. Now it is not an island, it is defended by the destructible rocks on the ramp that lead, of course, to these bases in the bottom right and top left. So that'll make th- those two bases a lot more used than the island expansions ever were. The gold bases are in the same locations, and the large, I think one of the reasons why they redid Lost Temple into this Shattered Temple map was because of that damn pesky ledge, high ground at the natural base. It was really easy for Terran players to abuse that. So if you're spawning at the 6 o'clock position, you've of course got your natural. In the old Lost Temple, there was high ground all here. The high ground could easily be dropped with tanks or Thors to easily assault the natural expansion. No more high ground there. This is going to be a lot less favored towards Terran, so that is pretty cool. Other than that, for the most part, the features are the same. I believe you've got one Zelnaga in the middle now instead of two Zelnaga towers. Still, you've got the foliage, the high grass, I believe, in the same location as the original Lost Temple. But yeah, pretty similar, but I'm glad to see Blizzard is really listening to the fans and adjusting these maps accordingly. The final map, Typhon Peaks. Watchtowers overlook the center of the map. Destroying rocks will provide for additional attack paths and expansion locations. So in this particular map as well, four-player map once again. Bottom left position, you got a main base. You've got a ramp leading down to a natural. It looks like that could be a fewer mineral patches at your natural base there as well. And then there's another ramp that leads down to a potential third base, and this third base is like completely surrounded by high ground as well, so it might be a little hard to defend there. And then you've got bonus bases at the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock as well. But depending on where your opponent spawns, it may be really difficult to hold those bases as well. I just wanted to announce these maps to you guys so you guys sort of know what's going on. They added these 1v1 map pools. This is not, I mean, in-depth analysis by any stretch of the imagination. It would practically be impossible to do that given the pixels and dimensions of these pictures. If you guys want, more thorough map reviews, I can bring them to you. But I think that is going to be just about it for today. As we can see down here, the removed maps. Actually, I will mention this too. Lost Temple was removed, of course, replaced by Shattered Temple. Also removed Steps of War, one of the most not horrendous, but a lot of people really didn't like Steps of War because it was like a 7-foot rush distance. People hated that map, especially if like you're a Zerg player and you're going up against a 4-gate toss or a 2-racks pressure build. It's very hard to hold on Steps of War. Jungle Basin was considered to be very Terran favored because of the base placement. Shakura's Plateau was removed, and this user actually bolded it, and that's a little surprising to me as well because Shakura's was considered to be a really good 4-player map. A lot of people really liked it, and it was really balanced, considered to be so. Of course, there's speculation, but as well. And Blistering Sands, like I mentioned before, removed and replaced by Backwater Gulch. So, once again, just wanted to bring all this information to you guys, the new 1v1 maps, the patch notes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Look forward to many more shoutcasts. I'm going to be, again, back at school this weekend and back with my computer so I can cast some StarCraft 2 for you guys. All right, cool. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace out.